drinking some mead.
We are drinking mead. This is a sparkling mead that I got in California. It's a place outside of San Francisco. Friends Heather and Ryan took us out. A very strange place, like very unique place. A bunch of varieties of mead, which I didn't really know was a thing. It's sparkling, made with champagne. That makes it different than normal mead. But there were like 12 varieties that they had there, and they were each pretty unique. They still had a little bit of that honey vibe to it, but like the honey itself was different based on what the bee had pollinated and gotten from. There's a lot of science that people smarter than me could probably fill in here, and listener could probably Google this shit. So the place is Hydron Meadery. It's in Point Reyes Station, California. It's an awesome place to go. Also, Point Reyes Station was this like adorable little town out in the middle of California somewhere. Like it had an awesome bookstore where like if I hadn't flown there, I definitely would have just left for like 20 books.
Nice.
Like High Weirdness.
Oh yeah.
And then like a book just recording people on how they do their field recordings.
That's awesome.
And there was like 2 other books I got, and like I would have, only because I had to take them home on a plane. I could have kept going. So yeah, the whole place was great. And yeah, this mead is fantastic.
So what the hell were you doing in California, Dave?
Yeah, what the
Not just getting mead, I presume.
It was not. I was there for the Recombinant Festival. It is put on by Knot of Rhythm and Noise for all of the old industrial nerds.
Asphodel record label was his.
Yeah. It was an insane lineup. The show was astounding. If anyone has a chance to go, I have not a single bad thing to say about it. Like from the time we got there to the time we left, it was amazing audio, visual, and then like the video was like 2 stories tall, or maybe even higher, maybe 3 stories, like half a football field wide, 4K, and like a variety. Like one thing would be like weird shapes. The other one was like this decomposed, like decaying building modeled, and then was like morphing into other things, finesse, bitone, and then like just weird maniacs from San Francisco. All of them were fucking amazing. Huh. There was no filler, there was no downtime. It was just like every act after the other was great. So that's why we were there. But then we went to this other place, to the meadery.
Sweet.
And the variety we have now we're drinking is the Madras.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Oh, close enough. Madras Carrot Blossom. Doesn't even taste that much like carrot.
No.
Very refreshing.
I saw that and was wondering what to expect, but it's just like hard to describe in words, especially as I'm not like a mead drinker, so I can't like describe it as well as I could like tea or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what even like the wine sort of doesn't seem like it's applicable here. But no, I love it. And like I said, when we were there, we were getting flights of all the varieties they had, and each one was very unique. Like all of it was well outside of like my idea of like a sort of like honey mead. Some you couldn't taste any honey at all. Yeah.
It's really light too. It's not as like syrupy thick as like some other mead I've had before.
That's what I've always envisioned mead being, like just really syrupy, thick, like honey with alcohol in it, basically. Mm-hmm. I've only tasted it one time, and it was a little too thick for my liking, but I haven't tried it since.
Do you want to try some of this?
I got a lime bubbly.
All right.
Right here.
Do you want to go? You want to give us all the flavor notes on that lime bubbly?
No.
I had one of those the other day, and I thought it tasted more like a Sprite than other kind of. It was like a Sprite without the sugar. Yeah, and I was into it actually.
I think it's from the same evil corporation.
Right.
I think bubbly it's either Pepsi or Coke. Let me look on the bottle. It's one of the big ones. I can't find it on there, but yeah, I know bubbly is like Pepsi or Coke's version of La Croix. So
that's a bummer.
That might explain the similarity there. It's probably the same artificial flavorings.
The same muskrat gland was used. We expressed this muskrat into the same vial as Sprite.
What if that's the thing we get sued over? That's the line we crossed.
That is a trade secret, sir.
All of our muskrat extraction is cruelty free.
We do let them vape, bro. I feel like I just went into the void there. It's like, oh, I don't know what to do with anything right now.
So, I mean, we didn't really talk about this beforehand, but I mean, is there anything we need to address with the coronavirus and its relationship with synthesizers?
I think we should. I think we should give our listeners a little context.
Yep.
You know,
But yeah, coronavirus limiting all of our existences.
we're locked down. Government mandate today on the day of March 15th.
The Ides of March.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be aware of them.
Fuck that up.
It's impacting module manufacturing.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
To quite an extent. That's one of the major contributors to the delay of us getting our effects aids
Yeah.
modules from Happy Nerding. The Chinese manufacturing.
Yeah, China's on lockdown
Yeah,
still.
the factories that build our shit
Right.
are not functioning, not manned. People are, still quarantined over there. So it delayed the manufacturing of the last batch of that module for like a month.
Yeah.
And I think the next batch is finally being made right now and shipping out to places like Schneider's Leyden and things like
Yeah.
that.
Now, is it still being manufactured in China, or they found alternative sources?
I think so, yes.
think so.
Okay.
It was just they had to wait for the delay to be over. That's about all I know about it. He didn't provide a whole lot of insight. I just know it was manufactured in China and the factory was closed basically due to Corona. So it's been a month behind. Analog Haven hasn't gotten the second batch in, which it sold out of the first batch like immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's looking like mid-April now or something like that. But yeah, that's one that got me. I'm like ridiculously into that. Like just the stereo effect nature of it and the way he has like mono signals working, and it just sounds like really good. I'm pretty into it.
I'm hyped for it. The amount of algorithms he's making available is insane. I even like requested a couple custom ones and he managed to whip it up within
no
a
shit.
couple days. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Nice.
I wanted a reverb that was kind of similar to a pedal from Earthquaker Devices, which is no longer in what's the word? No longer in
Production?
Production. Thank you. I don't know why my brain isn't working today. It's been discontinued, and I always wanted like a module version of that pedal with some CV functionality, which seemed like it could be easily done because it's not that complex. It's just called the Earthquaker Transmitter.
I'm not familiar with that
Yeah,
one. What's the deal with it?
that one.
It's a mono reverb that has like its own feedback loop filter built in. It achieves a weird resonant like screechiness that you can hit. It's good for like drones, things like that. I've always been fascinated by the pedal of it, and I just always wanted like a little module of it that you could CV things like the frequency and things like that. And he was able to whip up an algorithm that was like his interpretation of it within a couple days and made it
that's amazing.
available. Yeah.
Damn.
So is there going to be updates like that? Like, is there going to be like firmware updates or some way to add new algorithms?
Oh yeah, he's been doing it like every few days.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's
There's
been
like
adding more and more to it.
An app to manage some of that, so you get like 32 effects on the module at one time, and then there's an app that you could use to kind of like shuffle those things onto there.
Rearrange them, put on ones you want, take out ones you don't.
Do you know how it connects to the module?
I do not off the top of my head.
What were you gonna say?
I was going to say hopefully it's not Picket.
Yeah, hopefully not.
I don't think anyone uses Picket except
No,
Scott.
And now I can't find a fucking programmer. And like SparkFun and DigiKey, they're all like, get on the waiting list.
He should just sell the chips at that point. That's what 4 Millisecond did, because they had you had to get a Picket to like update the peg and stuff, and they just ended up selling the chips. So I just bought those.
Certain shops also offer updating services if
True.
you feel like shipping it to like Control or
Which is
something like that.
I just don't
Yeah.
want to get a Picket for this one fucking thing and
Right.
never use it again.
right.
But hopefully the effects aid does not actually have that route, and it's just US. You just jam a micro USB in there.
It has
That'd
to
be nice.
right?
Yeah.
And if they're gonna make an app, like something.
That's cool though. I frankly I was super interested in it, and then I saw it was really hard to get, and I just kind of stopped paying attention. I was
Yeah.
like, I'll wait maybe in a year when it's readily available.
I did too. I gave up because like Greg had been saying like, oh, this thing is unobtainium kind of.
Yeah.
And then I saw the comparison to the Strymon pedal, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then he started going to a few more algorithms, and I'm like, dude, this is like this would be amazing to have in my modular.
Absolutely.
You know?
It's like 1/16 the size of a ZDSP, and it's definitely smaller than the new tip top like Z series.
Right.
And even the Strymon.
And the Strymons.
The big gigantic Strymon modules.
Magneto.
Yeah.
Or even some of their pedals, which I had like a weird rig for a while to route out of the modular and TRS stereo in and out through the pedals and back in and all that shit.
I'm not fucking with that anymore.
Yeah,
I can't. It's kind of a pain.
Yeah.
It's also stereo in, which a lot of effects modules still aren't,
Yeah, that's cool.
including all the new tip tops.
Yeah.
The FX8, yeah. He crammed a lot of good functionality into a tiny
Absolutely.
package.
We were talking about last episode about like the sort of like the evolution of stereo in your rec.
It still blows my mind that the tip tops are all mono in.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
get that.
Why?
I still go back to the idea that they just saw so many people using a stack cable to go from left to right.
Sure. I've been doing it for years.
Yeah. If you make a lot of mono modules too, you might just be like, this fits in our model.
Yep.
Fuck you.
Yep.
Yeah.
But like, what if you want 2 effects modules? You want to route your tip-top delay into your tip-top reverb. You know what I mean? I don't know. It just seems like you're making your shit more incompatible for people who want to double down on like the tip-top effects lineup and shit like that. It was one of the deciding factors that made me cancel my pre-order, which I had with perfect circuit for the Z5000, and instead decided I was going to get 2 FX8s instead.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You know, like it doesn't make sense to get the Z5 over that.
I mean, except for the fact that I'm still waiting now, but but other than that, yeah, it made sense to me.
All right, so what do you got here?
No, yeah. What I just slapped on the table is an MPC One, which is you've used Noctrack before.
I have.
This is one of the most complicated goddamn machines ever.
Are you shitting me?
There is every feature you've ever imagined that would be in an MPC is jammed into this thing.
I thought that was the point of the One, is to not be that.
No.
Like, I thought the X and the Live were kind of supposed to be very versatile, kind of convoluted, and this was supposed to be like the stripped down, easier to use, easier to perform with option.
You would think that.
Okay.
It's the same operating system basically. So it is like it's like trying to learn it's like somebody gave me an Amiga basically, and I have to figure out how to do what I do on it, which is cool. Like, there's a touch screen. There are a million icons on every page. There's every JJOS on the MPC 1000. Like, they started adding all these features, like, recording mutes as you're playing them and stuff like that. And it kind of does that by default now. Like, I was recording my first sequence and was like, this is going fucking crazy. What's going on? And then realized, like, in the system settings, mute recording was turned on by default. So I realized, like, every time I muted something, it was picking it up in a recording. And I was like, oh shit, like, this is kind of weird.
It seems like a cool
It's a good feature.
Yeah.
It's something people wanted for the 1000 for years, and JJ finally added it. So it's like they took every feature on there, put it in here, but also put like good effects on top of it. And it's like it can do everything the rack samplers can do, like key groups and different, like, like having it'll auto sample. So you can hook it up to a synthesizer. It'll play like C1 note into it, sample that, trim it to be a perfect pad, and then go through the whole octave range depending upon how you set it. So you can just play that synth away from the machine. They got that feature working in like this operating system.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was cool. Like, that's something I'm going to try to use. So it's got like a lot of promise. Every way you could imagine slicing a sample, like recycle style, like you can actually create the slices as the sample plays by hitting the pads, and it'll assign that slice to that pad. Like, it's got crazy shit. Like, as far as slicing goes, they nailed it. It's like everything I ever wanted from a rack sampler jammed into here. That being said, like, it's mad confusing when you turn it on. Like, I know the Elektron stuff, and so do we, and like you can turn that on and kind of use it. This is like you're gonna sit down with the manual for a while and figure out like how do I make a note like longer than one step.
So how is it confusing? Is it too many options? Is it an esoteric language?
Both. Like, so if like an MPC, and I've had the 2000 back in the 90s, and then I had the 1000. So about like sequences and how they're not like a sequence, and it's like a collection of everything, and about projects and programs, and then like tracks within programs. It's got all that, but it also has this Ableton style clip functionality. you get 16 pads with all your track shit on it, like normal MPC, but you also have another 16 pads in clip mode where you can just play like Ableton style clips that you record in this thing alongside it.
So wait, do you switch modes? Because you only have the
Yeah.
16 pads.
It's weird because it's like a program type is clip, and then when you go to that program type and hit edit, you get like all 16 pads. You're like in a different mode all of a sudden. That's the stuff that'll kind of fuck your head up when you're like, oh shit, I'm somewhere else. Like I'm on, Uranus, not Pluto anymore. Like I've got to figure out like what the fuck I'm doing. And that's the shit they don't explain very well either. Like even in the manual, you got to kind of figure out there are a bunch of different ways you can record stuff. Like there's a looper, but you have to go through like 10 steps to get the looper to play into one of those clip things. Whereas it should just be there, like ready to play, you would think, if you take like a loop. So that's a long-winded way of saying that you can do like MIDI synced MPC and Ableton style loops that record, and then you like automatically have those on a clip, but you have to go through steps to like assign those to the clips. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can do a lot of things that I wanted to do from this. Like I wanted an MPC, like I've always had. I wanted the ability to stack effects that sound good, which you do, and you can automate the fuck out of them, and it'll do that. MPC 1000 would die when you like automated too many of the effect parameters. They also sounded like shit, but it would also just fuck up. This handles it seems like very well. And you get like a CPU meter, and that's the only thing you've got to fight against. You've got as much ability to fuck this up as you have CPU left over.
Do you find yourself hitting that like over the course of you working with it? What's the range you're hitting?
It's a good point because it seems like they dynamically assign CPU finally in a way that doesn't make it pop and click. Like if you mute things, it seems to reduce the CPU meter basically. So that's kind of cool. And that if you have a bunch of chains, you can kind of like mute shit and you can get some of that power back.
As opposed to playing it and then having muted it.
Yeah.
But like still allocating resources to it.
Exactly. Like even if you mute it, it's still like memory resonance, it's still going to be hogging like that CPU and addresses and stuff like that. So it's good. It's got like a huge touchscreen. You're really working the touchscreen a lot, I found. I would not want the MPC Live. Just knowing that they brought all these soft buttons out here that you can do stuff, because just having to use the touchscreen for all that would kind of suck.
Especially in the club late at night.
Yeah.
You're sweating.
That's what was annoying me about the Force also.
Right.
Like, there was a lot of buttons, but like there wasn't enough overlap. You know what I mean? Like some stuff you had to use the touchscreen for, and that kind of drove me insane.
I kind of want the Force, but like... it's like I want some of the functionality they only put on there for the clip stuff, and the way they made it easier to get to a recording, to a playable clip. This has like a layer of abstraction on top of that, but the Force also like has a synthesizer this doesn't have. Like the cool thing, this is the first MPC with like built-in synths, and the one like tube synth is just a regular like 2-os synth with a bunch of different like modulators and stuff, and it's like it's okay. It's not bad, but there's also like one called Hype that's only on the Force that does wavetable stuff that's not on this. So it's like, why are you like, is that gonna be on here? Because they kind of sell it right now as like a Force only feature. It's like, well, I want the wavetable synth. Like I don't, So
Gotta buy them all, Nick.
you do, but that thing is bigger than a laptop.
Yeah, I think it's enormous.
This is already pretty big. This is like a fucking computer. You can tell it's a Windows embedded computer because even when you turn the power off, it's like, oh, you want to shut down. Yeah. Do you want to save your work first? And I'm like, I thought you just
Force
turned
was
the
the
fuck
same
off.
way. Yeah, like it has a boot up,
Right.
And I can see the vent on the back here. Like, does this have an actual fan?
It gets warm.
Okay.
It doesn't have a fan, but the sides are plastic and they're all like completely air exposed. So it gets warm. It's got MIDI sequencing. Like the CV outs I have not tried yet, but I'm super hopeful to like hook it up to my modular and just sequence that. But you don't get like an LFO. You get like a bunch of like parameter lock knobs you can assign to CVs basically, which is super attractive. Like I'm into that, but you can't like point an
Parameter
LFO
locking,
out of the CV outs or anything like that. You're going to have to do that with a module. So... But that's cool. I'm into it. Like CV gate pitch, mod wheel, and then just kind of like fuck up 2 parameters, like I'm into that. Like 2 more outputs would have been fucking great. Sacrifice the CV outputs and have 2 more audio outputs. There are already people that are like, oh, I hope we can send audio out of the CV outs. I'm like, maybe, but they didn't design it that way. More MIDI IO. Like it was the thing they skimped on that the Live has and the X has is like more inputs and outputs. They kind of punted on that. You can do MIDI over Ethernet as of like last week with the last update.
Yeah, but you also have actual 5-pin MIDI,
Yeah.
USB, 2 variations of USB.
Yeah, because you can do USB host, which is
Right,
cool.
right.
So you can
That
hook
is
a
cool.
keyboard up.
Yeah.
Haven't tried that yet, but I'll probably try that. And the other one's just upgrades and computer integration and stuff like that.
Looks nice.
It is nice. Like you could see, like it's hard to notice, but there's like the tolerances on the manufacturing upgrade. There's a bigger gap over here on the screen than there is over here. This one's totally flush. This is like a 1/16 of an inch, I would say, gap on the display. You can tell it's as cheap as they could make it and still make it right.
Right.
It's
It looks
metal.
like an MPC.
Yeah,
you
it
know?
looks like an MPC. The pads are maybe the shittiest ones I've ever had on an MPC. Like the MPC 1000 pads were not great. You had to buy like replacements. These are okay. I like that they light up and have different colors. It's nice to like organize that.
that's
And you can
cool.
see the velocity difference. Like, oh, green is low and the red is high. Some of that shit's cool. The effects sound good. It sounds great.
These MPCs are not known for their effects. So what's new?
The MPC 1000 was like a joke as far as the effects go. They sounded like shit. You were never getting updates. This actually has effects from Akai and from this company Air. And it turns out this company Air does all the effects for Pro Tools that are by default. And those sound pretty good. And
Are they like utility effects?
yeah, but some of them are nice. You get like, there are tons of them. You get like 20 different delays, and it's like a ping pong delay, and then a stereo ping pong delay, and that's one with like a bandpass filter. Like they did a good job at adding a lot more effects than I've ever seen on MPC, where that was kind of a joke, unless you bought like an expansion card or something like that.
So in each of those, are the parameters automatable?
Yes.
Oh, that's nice.
That's a nice feature.
Yeah.
You can automate the shit out of everything. So you get like these 4 knobs on the side, and these are the Q-Link ones, and you hit this button to kind of page through the different pages for effects. I've run into one incident so far, and I'm on the latest OS, where the Q-Link thing that hovers over the parameters went away, and I had to like manually assign the knobs. It was one like bug I ran into. I haven't reproduced it since, but you could tell it was like, okay, this thing's gonna be like kind of flaky, you know, like it's not perfect.
But you are an early adopter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, this has only been out for a couple months. The OS is, you know, supposed to be robust, but this is the first time it's used on this machine.
How's it function slaved? Have you tried it yet?
I have not yet. I've only had it master so far, so I've got to try. Like, that's the next thing. I set it up last night in the studio before I kind of tore it down to bring it here, and like, that's the next step. But as a master, like, I ran it for hours, was sampling stuff, and it was just running away. Timing seemed great, like no issues.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I'm hopeful. It's a nice size. I'd like to run like kind of a set with this and the rhythm and maybe small modular rig. It's kind of where I'm at right now, but we'll see.
What new stuff should I talk about? Let's see.
I mean, the things you have in triplicate is probably a good starting point.
Okay. Yeah. I forgot that wasn't like that last episode.
Yeah.
No,
you're
not
right.
at all.
That is a newer change. Yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit. So I got rid of my Mutable Instruments factory versions of grids and rings and replaced them with a knockoff, a clone, so to speak. Little controversial, I know. But it saved me a lot of space. I was able to fit almost 3 clone rings into the space where I had 1 factory rings, and I was able to fit exactly 2 grids into the space where I had 1 factory grids. So it was helpful for me to compact things down and get more functionality in the same amount of space. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it myself. I feel a little guilty for doing it. You know what I mean? Also, just the company that is doing it, like, that seems to be all they do, is just kind of like whip up smaller sized versions of the mutable stuff, and that's kind of like their whole business model. The company was called Momo Modular. Maybe it's Moo Moo. I don't know how it's pronounced, but really cool people. They cut me a deal for buying like multiples, which was nice, and also saved me on the shipping. Like they have a website, but I was doing all the dealings through Reverb.
Yeah.
They have like a store shop on there. But it's interesting. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. The knobs are tinier, a little cramped, obviously. But
I mean, to get that size, though, those are tremendously smaller than the original form factor.
half the size.
Is it really half?
Exactly half. Yeah, I fit 2 of those in the exact space where I had one factory. Yeah.
Man, if we could make like rubberized, like really small knobs like that would go over those type, that would be
That'd be
nice.
awesome.
Because they're a pain in the ass. Like you said earlier, it's kind of like that. You can't go from 1 to 10 smoothly. You got to go
Not
1,
at all.
2, 8. It's like, fuck. Like the Pittsburgh Voltage Lab, like all the CV inputs are the mini pots, and that's the main thing. That's like, fuck.
I feel like there are things where that sort of coarseness is fine.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's stuff you really want to dial into.
There were patches live that I wanted to change the CV input potentiometer on, and I was like, this is kind of shitty right now.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't dial it in. Like I've got tiny fucking alien hands too. Like I don't like, it's generally not a problem, but that was a problem.
I mean, as someone who has literally the exact opposite problem.
Yeah, I feel you do. We have sausage fingers. Plus, I keep having these issues where my joints swell. I don't know if I'm getting fucking arthritis or what.
Yeah, I got that too.
It
It's
sucks.
like, yeah.
But I do have a full row of mutable stuff now, and I feel like I've given mutable quite a bit of cash over the years.
Oh fuck yeah.
And, so I don't feel quite so bad of phasing out some of the factory versions with the clones. And I still have plenty of factory models too. I still have 2, factory plates over there, 3 factory marbles. So
All I know is Magpie should cut you a check.
yeah, I have a lot of Magpie panels now. Everything that I could swap to black has been swapped to black, with the exception of the Chaos Devices stuff.
On my 7U, I'm
Yeah.
down to 3 modules.
I know, I've got 2 or 3, and it's gonna be a fucking pain, man.
Killing me.
As far as even beyond the aesthetics of it, I just love being able to see white labeling on a black panel.
Yeah,
it's so much
fucking
easier
great.
to see, especially in a dark room
Yes.
or club.
I don't. This is the dumbest thing, but it like calms me down too. I don't know why, but like just to look at a black panel, I'm like, like it.
The simplicity of
It
it.
is like I
Black
can't
and white
explain
world.
it.
Want everything to be grayscale.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Chaos Device stuff is next. I don't know, like Blush Response. I noticed lately he's been digging on the Odessa.
Oh, okay.
He's been posting a lot of like Instagram videos of it, and I'm like, cool. His is black, and I'm crazy jealous of it. Like, I have no idea where he got the black panel from, because like all the retailers in the States don't have it. I hit up Chaos Devices, and they said, oh, they're available. Talk to your retailers. I'm like, where? Because like no one here has them yet.
I take it you still like the Odessa?
I love it.
Yeah.
I like the whole look and the interface of it. That was one of the main reasons why I bought it. Like I've been kind of fiending for a complex oscillator. What I mean? There's a few modules out there that don't do the exact same thing, but can get you into weird complex oscillator territories and whatever. I wasn't too happy with a lot of them. The interfaces, not the sound. You know what I mean? Like sound wise, if I could pick any just based on sound, it would probably be Hertz Donut Mark III. Fantastic fucking module. However, I kind of don't like how Scott crammed so much functionality into that little menu system, and bouncing between what oscillator and what modes you're working on, things like that. I wanted everything to be up front, and everything is with the Odessa. There's no menus, there's no hidden anything. It's just all up front. Everything's accessible. I'm pretty happy with the sound. My only complaint is the fact that you can't get rid of the fundamental frequency on the harmonic outs. The even odd. It's always present. Even though there's a dedicated fundamental out, it's also present on the other 2 even odd
weird
outputs.
choice.
Yeah. Well, they said they basically couldn't do it easily. So people have been asking that maybe it'll happen in a future update. They were very clear in saying they feel that the Odessa is done. the firmware is filled, and it would be a pain in the ass to update, and they don't want it to ever really need to be updated. So they're kind of considering it closed book at this point, which is a little disappointing. Yeah. And it actually encouraged a bit of an argument on the Muff forums. I've noticed there was people arguing with them because they were saying basically because of the chipset, it can't be updated. And there was people pointing out that like that's horseshit. You can you can sell the chip. You can there's always an option basically. So yeah, it started a little bit of controversy because I'm not the only one who has also been I guess disappointed with the fact that you can't get rid of the fundamental.
Also, as a Zadar owner, their update isn't going to fucking work.
Yeah.
Straight up.
There's that too. So yeah, maybe it was a lesson learned with the Zadar, and they don't want to really
just don't
try to update anything.
Yeah.
But no, for the moment, like I haven't had too much time to dive into the Odessa or the R-Bar, which are the two big ones that I've gotten recently. I just haven't been in the vibe. I've been mainly working on percussion stuff lately. I've been getting way more into like the physical modeling stuff and rings and being able to run things into rings was nice in that regard. Buying cycles rather was more like a goal I had for live performance.
Right.
I wanted a drum machine that was digital, versatile, and yet not overly complicated. To do some FMs type stuff, you know what I mean? Something that I could replicate some of what I do in the modular in a drum machine. And originally I was on the market to get back a Nord Drum 2.
Oh, okay.
Because I miss mine.
Yeah.
And, but it's like impossible to get one now.
It's been a while since I remember you having one.
Yeah.
But that was a while ago now.
It was a couple years back.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I sold the Nord drum because I had started doing all my FM drum stuff in the modular.
Yeah.
Now I don't want to bring my modular out for live stuff, so it's like, how do I get FM drum stuff live? Right around the time frame when I was thinking about pulling the trigger on a Nord drum, because there was one posted up on Muff, but then the cycles came out, and I said, well, fuck it, I'll give that a shot. It's $300.
Yeah.
You can't really like.
Is it as fun as a Platts is for like FM drum stuff?
No. I still prefer plates, but it's as close to a plates drum machine that I've found so far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially because it's all like macro based. You know what I mean? Like.
So wait, before we get too far, do you want to give a sort of overview, high level description of cycles and sort of like ease the listener into this?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm referring to the new FM drum machine, Elektron Cycles, not to be confused with the Indian bike shop of the same name that Google keeps trying to send me to. Tell you what, those guys probably have never seen this much website traffic.
They're like, what do we do with our ads
trending
last week?
hard right now.
It's even spelled the same way, like with the K, Elektron Cycles. Yeah.
Holy
it's
shit.
the exact same spelling. And like, yeah, so they've been bumped up to like the #1 result on Google now. But this is the Elektron Model cycles. So, but yeah, it's a FM based drum machine. I guess you could use it as a synth if you really wanted to. It's not really set up for that, you know. But you get 6 models, or machines rather, that you can set up per track in any order. You get kick, snare, metal, perk, tone, and chord. So those are, you could consider that like your macros, you know, like you would on a Platts or a Braids. You know, it's a starting point. We originally decided that the Digitone was a preset box back when it was first announced.
Yeah.
This is definitely a preset box, like 100%.
We went too early.
We did.
Yeah.
The Digitone is a box full of experimental potential compared to the cycles.
Yeah.
It is very limited.
Well, there's a ton of presets. Isn't it like 500 or something?
There's a fucking epic ton of presets.
Yeah, you can store 60,000 or something like that.
It's like 90,000.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. They said theoretically it's like infinite, but like they noticed that things would probably start to fuck up for you around 90K. But in my opinion, there's no way in hell you're even going to make a fraction of that
Yeah.
because the thing is so limited in scope per machine. You're not going to have that much deviation to warrant a lot of presets.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they have a shit ton of kick drum presets in there already, for example. All of them are just marginally different. You know, they all have the same like kind of basic sound. They all still sound like you're using the kick drum machine. Right. You're not going to really make your kick drum machine sound like the metal machine. It's not that open-ended like on a digitone.
What are you changing if you can change it at all?
It's a little nebulous. Like they're all worded the same on the panel, but they're doing different things per machine.
Right. They have like contour.
Exactly.
But
You
it's
got like
what the fuck
contour,
does that do?
shape, color.
But you don't have like individual operator and modulator
No, sir.
parameters at all.
That
So,
threw me.
Yeah.
I mean, the entire basis of FM is to have these modulators and carriers, and that's completely hidden from you.
Yes. You're not doing FM synthesis on this thing. You're tweaking a handful of parameters that are locked into a very small variety of, you know, sonic differences. You're not getting into like the root of the FM synthesis or anything like that.
Because even on the
And like I said, there's no way you could dial one machine really to sound like another. It's not that versatile. Like if you're using the kick machine, you're locked into the kick machine and the little variances that you can do with it. You want something to sound metallic, you're going to have to load the metal machine. You know what I mean? Things like that. You're not going to have this wide range, this palette like you would on like a digitone where you could shape, you know, things to be different.
So you can load different ones per track.
Yeah, you can load any, like if you want all 6 tracks to be the kick machine, you can do that. You can arrange them in any order on any track. That is one of the big pros for this thing, in my opinion, that you're not locked in per track.
Right.
You know, like you are on most drum machines where like you're like, fuck, if I only had one more kick and I would get rid of the rim shot so I could have another fucking kick machine.
But
you know
this
what I mean?
kit won't let me do that.
Right. You can on this, and that's a huge bonus. I think that's one of the smartest choices they made with this thing was the flexibility of that. And there's a few other things that I thought would really make it stand out. Like I did not foresee myself buying another Elektron device anytime soon. But this one kind of pulled me back in, and I don't regret the decision. Like after spending some time with it, I like it. It's certainly limited. I think a lot of people are going to be making things that sound the same with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's going to take someone who's really into the machine to find a way to make it sound unique.
I'm surprised they didn't have a machine that was just like 2-op and it's just like carrier, modulator, infinite flexibility. Like you can get 2 of these things to modulate each other and output sound.
The closest to that, at least in my messing around with it, is the tone machine.
Oh, okay.
My 2 favorites are tone and perk. I feel like those you can kind of get a little more versatile with. My least favorite, surprisingly, is the snare and the metal.
Oh, why? It sounds like shit.
It sounds like shit. That was one of the main reasons why I bought this thing. I was like, that's fucking cool. It has a whole mode dedicated to it, but it is super limited and it just does not sound that good.
All right.
It's meant to be used as like cymbals, you know, sure.
Right.
But I feel like it doesn't even do cymbals that well, let alone being able to do the weird dissonant shit that I tend to pull out of FM things like the BIA and even plates. From what I was reading, or I'm sorry, I didn't read it. It was a interview. I think it was at Perfect Circuit with the guy who made this thing, and he was talking a bit about the metal machine. He was saying originally he wanted to emulate the machine drum.
The hi-hat, which is
right.
Okay, but in my mind, I hear that and I'm like, oh, they should have just put the machine drum hi-hat on it.
Right. Well, that's kind of what he was trying to do. And he said originally he was told that was just like, I think, a 2-op thing. And he said he tried as hard as he could to get it using 2-op, and then it turns out it's actually not. There was some weird shit that they had going on with it that it was like an 8-op type of thing.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, so he had to like come up with a fancy way to make it that as it is currently. And it's cool, but it could definitely be better.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, a little more versatile, you know? It just sounds kind of like a bad analog crash cymbal.
Right.
You know, like even at its best point. You can do some hats with it, but I feel like using some of the other machines, I've been able to dial in better hats. So yeah, the Metal Machine was pretty disappointing.
All of these presets, like if you set the envelope or you
Envelope.
oh
Yeah,
I was
you
gonna-
don't-
What envelope?
oh
Yeah.
no.
That's another part of it is you
Yeah.
don't get
Oh.
anything like that.
No ADSR.
Are
All
you
you have is
serious?
decay.
Yeah.
And
Not even an
yeah.
attack.
So that is on my cons list. It's like
I didn't even realize I was wandering into a con.
yeah.
Wow.
So it's a drum machine with no envelopes. All
Bold
you get is
choice.
a decay, and the decay itself is kind of like meh. But
That's
yeah.
all you can do to even like try to get like an attack is to rig up the LFO.
no. That's what they always try to fucking
Yep.
make you do.
And yet you only get one LFO. So if you're gonna
Yeah.
fuck
You're gonna do
around,
this, yeah.
then you're locked in there. You have no modulation except for parameter locking at that point.
Why don't they give you 2 goddamn LFOs? Like, it just
I tell you what, that was the number one. Well, no, there was the 2 biggest complaints I had about this thing was A, you're locked to one LFO, and B, only one stereo output.
What?
yeah,
Which
that's
is huge
like
in my opinion. It's huge oversight. I mean, you can hard pan them, and you could parameter lock the panning if you wanted to try to
Right.
create some sort of weird
not-
stereo
yeah.
space. But
no.
yeah,
It's not.
yeah, exactly. Like that would just be so tedious for such
Yeah.
a basic fucking thing at
Yeah.
that point, you know. But yeah, that's my top 2 complaints because the effects are not that great. They're very limited and they're global. So the reverb
Yeah,
and the
like
delay
all-
sends are not per track. They're global and they don't sound that great. Like the
They'll
delay,
never move away from that shit.
Yeah,
I'm convinced.
the delay, the only options you get is time and feedback. The reverb, the only options you get is tone and size. And so yeah,
Wow.
very limited. And so you're like, well, fuck it. It's limited, right? You know, I'll affect externally. Not going to happen if you
Yeah.
only have one stereo fucking output. Your only option at that point, especially for like a live performance perspective, is to hard pan left, right.
Yeah.
And break it, you know, like
Two channel, basically.
Yeah.
Basic
two-channel
two-channel.
mono,
Yeah.
exactly. And I was already thinking of how to do this for my live setup. I was going to split the tracks in half. Have the first 3 hard pan left, the second
Yeah.
3 hard pan right. Right would be going to like the modular for
Yeah.
reverb and granular processing. The left would be going through distortion and shit like that. But it's just a bummer that
Yeah,
like
yeah.
at least one extra stereo set, which you could then do like a 4-channel mono
Right.
setup of processing would be fine.
Even 2-channel, this MPC has 4 stereo effects per pad. So it's like very different ball game than
Yeah.
any of the Elektron devices.
So yeah, it's got some good things going for it, and it's got some bad.
So, like right now,
Hmm?
what's the Vegas odds on you having one when we come back to record the next episode?
I don't foresee myself getting rid of it.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
for $300, it's a cool little drum machine.
Sure.
And I can dial in some stuff that's fun. That I can now fuck with live and not have to bring out my entire modular
Yeah.
drum machine to do. So yeah, I don't see it going anywhere, but at the same time, like I don't see it getting much use in the studio.
Right.
Like this is probably
Right.
going to be just a fun toy to use live, where it's super lightweight, it's super cheap. I can save everything to presets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'll function for what it needs to be live. It's just too limited, in my opinion, to really, program with it in the studio. I would.
Yeah.
I'll just use my modular or any other device, really.
Right, right.
So yeah, when I'm not preparing to do a live show, it's probably going to be collecting dust. But it is cool because it's got all the probability stuff built in.
Oh, that's cool.
It also has resolution per track.
Yeah.
So you can have things going at different time signatures, different lengths. So you can get kind of complex in that way. You're just not going to be getting too complex sonically. You know what I mean? You're going to be working within the confines of those machines or macros, whatever you want to call them. And you can do some synthy stuff with the chord and the
Okay.
tone machines. They're like
Yeah.
for that, basically. It's again, without an envelope, though, it's just going to be, a little strange. You're going to be doing little, like, plucky percussion, little FM bleep blops. which is cool because that's what I wanted.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
For the
yeah,
most
yeah.
part, it just sucks that I wouldn't be able to expand upon it a little bit.
With this and the model samples, they couldn't have made them look more generic, in my opinion.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
like this like
Oh, they look like shit.
beige, like yeah, they wanted to make it look like a pill or something like that. It's like the most generic thing possible. It's
Yeah.
weird, devoid of branding. Like
and like it has this weird sort of like they didn't lean into any sort of like retro vibe.
No.
It's just office computer.
Yeah. And they supplied some stickers with it, and they even have some retro, like old school computer graphics on it. Like you can't even read the ones that are supposed to be words.
right.
Like this made me laugh because they literally look like shit. Like not like aesthetically like shit, but like literal shit. I'll show you. Hang tight.
Oh, you mean the font is shit?
Oh,
this
what
is
the
this
fuck?
is somebody smearing shit, or actually just
What the
are those colons?
Do those not look like turds?
Yeah,
Those
or
look like
intestines.
colon. Yeah, this look like-
Intestines and poop. Yeah, I don't know what the
there's
fuck.
just like blobby poop.
Right, it just looks like a little pile of dog shit. I don't.
I'm kind of
yeah.
stunned right now. This is like fucking weird.
Right. I was cracking up when I unboxed it. I said, "What the fuck is that?"
Because the rest of it has like a very like 8-bit vibe, like
And then there's shit,
and yeah,
which I don't know was supposed to be. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But there it is. That's the stickers. That's how you make your little ugly box not look so ugly, is by covering it in shit stickers.
Because there's that big beige gap at the top, and I'm assuming all that text right there will fit into that. Otherwise, it's pointless, right? Like
It does not fit there. Not at all.
that fucking blows my mind right there.
You cannot fit this sticker on there at all without, and this is what the dude who made it did. You pull the knobs off, you line it up, you cut holes in the sticker, and then you can align it around the knob.
That's the sound of me quitting life.
yeah, that's some low grade style flipping there.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like, there's some really good choices here, and you know, and then there's some really questionable
Birds.
ones.
What the
I'm so confused. I cannot tell if I love or hate this machine.
Yeah,
But $300, like, it's kind of hard to fuck with.
that's the thing. You know, it's $300. Like, I
Yeah.
know I'm going to get my $300 worth out of it. So fine,
Yeah.
so be it. There's a couple little things in there that I like too. Like if you make and save a preset and then you load it up and you start changing values, underneath the value that you're changing, it shows you what your preset value is.
Oh, the original
That's
value.
nice.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's-
Is it all the time?
Yes.
That's
And that's a nice little
Nice,
touch.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
saw that and I was like, cool. You know, at first I didn't realize what the little number was. And I was like, what the
Mm-hmm.
fuck is that? And I was like, oh, that's my original value. I was like,
Yeah.
dope. You know, that's very useful. Especially when you're trying to make like a kit, you know, and you just
Yeah,
want to like
yeah.
deviate from a little bit from your last. I felt that was a nice touch. It's knob per function, which is also nice.
That is nice.
Oh, that is cool.
If it wasn't, I probably wouldn't have bought it.
Right, no menus.
Right.
Really.
I'm
So what is
really-
it? Is it 12 knobs? Is that
12
what I'm
knobs,
saying?
yeah. 12 knobs, knob per function. That, as little as that is, that's fucking huge for me. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
one reason why I've been deviating from Elektron over the last few years is too much shit per one fucking knob, you know,
Yeah.
too much menu diving. I'm not into that at all, especially for something like this where you just want to dial in a quick drum sound.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, limited on the menu diving. That's about it as far as good
So,
things go.
We've never done this, or at least I don't think we've done this. If you had to give this thing a grade, what would it be?
Ooh.
Like out of what?
Well, I guess it's typical sort of
Grade,
school, like
yeah.
A, B, C, D.
It's a C for sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Definitely a C because
it's a passing grade.
it passes exactly. There's nothing that really makes it stand out, sound wise or even function wise. That's like mind blowing or new, or even that good. Like it sounds mediocre.
So this is definitely
Yeah.
me in phys ed, where I got a C for showing up and dressing. Got it.
You get it. You get the participation award.
Even the blush response demo, I'm like, cool, these are the first good sounds I've heard, but
Yeah.
also I could hear like when you drive this thing, it sounds a certain way, just like the analog rhythm does. But like, I was like, oh, that distortion kind of sounds like shit.
Yeah, there's onboard distortion. If you turn the volume, I think it's past 50% or something like that. You start to slowly get into this weird overdrive area per track.
And Digitact had a separate overdrive. altogether.
Yes. This ain't bad. I mean, it'll crunch it up if that's what you're going for. Great, but it's not like a character that you're going to aim for.
Yeah.
And it's kind of bad in the sense that there's no other way to mix your tracks. You don't have a
Right.
filter per channel, and that overdrive is your volume per track. So if you're cranking a channel,
that's-
You can't. Oh,
you're
so you
gonna
don't have a separate
drown it.
gain.
No,
so
you're
you
kinda
can't crank
sucks.
up this and then turn down the gains. But like once you do that, this is now a dominant feature of your mix.
yes.
Oh,
that
that's fucked
track
up.
is going to be overriding everything else. So your only option at that point is to bring up everything else.
That was the nice thing about Digitac, having track volume, gain, and overdrive all being separate. You
Yeah.
could dial all that in.
And the rhythm in the Analog
Yeah.
4 had that too, where it's just like gain and overdrive.
Right,
you know?
right.
Yeah, there's no differentiating here. Differentiating between the like volume distortion. You're either at like at a normal volume level, or you're cranking it, and now you've entered their distortion feature, and it's like So it's really hard to mix. Like, so I've been actually avoiding the onboard distortion, just keeping the volume at like a normal like 50,
Yeah.
and then routing it through distortion externally, but.
I could tell when I heard your sample that you posted. I'm like, oh, someone finally like figured out the gain stage on it, because everybody else was just like crushing it internally.
Yeah, no.
And it sounded like shit.
It does.
Now, is there any indication that that's what's happening? That because if someone's given a volume knob, they may not expect that past noon is when you're going into overdrive.
I mean, it
Yeah.
says it shows a little waveform when you adjust the track level. At first it's a clean sine, and then it starts to get jagged after you get like past 50%. I think there's a little arrow on the it's like a dotted volume line, and I think the little dotted arrow is like unity. But yeah, the gain staging is pretty weird. You want to keep it low, or else it just starts to get I was keeping it low, and then going through my Jordan Analog amplifier module, and then I was routing it that way. I was like giving it boost on that module because it sounds a lot better than the gain
Wait,
on
module?
board.
What module?
Oh, the Joy Analog company?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's all the way on the right there. It's just like
I don't think we've talked about it though.
it's just an amplifier, left, right, or AB balanced gain, and it saturates pretty good if you crank it. It sounds nice.
They've made a few pretty cool modules recently. Joy Analog, like some analog filters, I think, and some other stuff.
But yeah, I think it'll be sticking around. It's just, I don't know. I don't want to say I'm disappointed with it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Nothing
Yeah.
more,
Yeah.
nothing less. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if people buy this thinking they're going to unlock,
Right.
something behind the scenes,
Yeah.
find the hidden in-between sounds and sweet spots, good luck, because it really isn't any. That's pretty much everything about the cycles that I had, at least.
I think there was a question I had about cycles.
Well, let's hear it, Dave.
It was a great question.
I mean, I've never known anyone to mess with FM as much as you do.
Yeah.
So
I had a lot of questions
I'm sure
about
you
that.
have some questions.
Yeah. No, it's lost of time. I should have wrote it down.
I got a Varigate again, and it's
Oh.
awesome.
Very nice.
Varigate 8. Yeah.
Black this time.
Yeah, the dude had a black panel. I thought it was a different module at first. I was like, what the fuck is that sequencer? I was like, oh, it's a Varigate 8. Okay, cool. That was what I was looking for. It's great for real-time programming.
Yeah.
Has most of the same quirks that I remember, like just kind of deficiencies with it, but it's pretty rad. I like it.
So just to recap, what had you gotten rid of it for in the past? Because I know we talked about it on the podcast, but it's been a while.
It might have been the Vector in the past, and then I kind of moved on from that to the MIDI box and was just kind of thrashing with sequencers in general. And then I realized that the Varigate 8 is still a nice, like, slider-driven, very real-time kind of sequencer for a modular, and that's what I like about it. Like
I thought you swapped it for the Hermod.
Oh yeah, no, I eventually got the Vector for the Hermod. Sold the Hermod again because that was again like way too menu driven for me. It was cool.
But not to derail the conversation, but did you see that Square Up is releasing that Rampler?
Oh yeah, the Rampler.
It looks fucking
Which
badass.
is like
Yeah,
a multi-voice synthesizer or sampler module for Eurorack,
Yeah.
which seems to be pretty like capable. Yeah, I was curious about that because they were teasing it right when I was like getting rid of the Hermod, and was curious to see what the fuck they were going to do with that.
I'm kind of into it.
It's
might
low
check that out.
latency. It seems like
Yeah.
they kind of like said like, oh, let's do the tip top one, but actually give you some ability to fuck with the thing and have like 6 of them or something like that at the
Yeah.
same time.
I was trying to figure out what I wanted to pair with the FLUX percussion
Oh shit.
sequencer.
That would be a good pair.
And I
be
saw that.
fucking
Yeah.
awesome.
It would either be
Yeah.
that or the assimilator, which is like 3 times the price.
Yeah, that's
Which is like too much for what I need.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that deep of sampling on the modular I've determined, but the Rampler looks like a nice middle ground.
right.
It looks more appealing than like the
Oh, the sample. This
the slample,
Slample.
slumple, whatever. the
Yeah.
fuck. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Looks like a nice middle ground between like that, that angle and something as crazy as the assimilate.
Yeah. Because it seemed to have some real-time CV options and some good like control, whereas the Squid sample was kind of weak in that regard. It was like bitrate cutoff tune, like
Yeah. And it had like shared
yeah,
knobs and pitch and stuff.
yeah, that was weak.
But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to derail. That just popped back in my head.
It was a
Forgot all
good
about
derail.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what I was talking about.
that. My bad. Varigate.
Varigate.
Oh, the
8.
Varigate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is cool. I'm glad to have it back. yeah.
Yeah.
Varigate's nice, man.
So how are you using it now that you got it back?
I was using it mostly in the context of that live set and to have like sequences that kind of repeated, but would vary, which it's very good for. And it was nice. It's so fast, and especially I realized they had a bunch of updates recently to like let you copy patterns over and kind of work with different variations of patterns a little more easily. And I was super into it. I'm still like, it's the way I like to program modular sequences right now, because I was using the MIDI box before, and that's like a very different way to go about programming a sequence on a device like that. And Varigate has all those gate outs, and it was just like working well with the 301 and for what I was going to do, and then like the preset recall kind of playing to that whole vibe. It was nice to have like, I can easily navigate banks and presets and have like 100 of these fucking things really quickly. No love lost. I can't see myself selling it again.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, as far as sequencers go in Eurorack, that's kind of the one that makes the most sense to me right now. Yeah. So yeah, it was mostly just controlling the voltage lab and the 301 live, because it was really easy to just kind of let the voltage lab at a certain tuning and let it be in tune, hopefully. And then the 301, I was like calling up quick saves, which is the like preset format. And it was really, I was really caning the fuck out of the, there are 2, 4, and 8 op FM synths within the 301 now that some dude made. Shout out Joe on the 301 forum. And they're just like, they're fun as fuck. And you can modulate the shit out of every parameter, and it was trashy, and like it was making great sounds.
So what are they?
They're called XO, which is one modulator and one carrier, and then XOXO, and then XOXOXOXO, which were the however many operators. But it was just a nice way to have like sine wave based like FM synthesis with preset recall, and you can modulate like any of the fucking parameters, like the amount that it's modulating the other operators, and kind of like cross modulate those. And that was the real gold. And I was like, okay, like I can instantiate these, make a few little tweaks, save a preset, and then go on the next thing and have it saved.
That's fucking
gold.
awesome. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. That plus the voltage lab was like a nice combination for a live set to have some sort of recall, as long as I didn't touch the tune knob on the voltage lab. That was the hardest part, is I realized like, I have to like tune these things, and yeah, fuck that live. Like that's what
Yeah.
digital's for. Right.
Is there anything else anybody wanted to talk about?
You didn't talk about the FLUX much, did you?
FLUX. Temporal rhythmic
Ooh, Temporal.
percussion sequencer or something. It's got a big name, Dave. I don't remember what it is.
You lost me at tempura.
Temporal, I think.
I think I'm getting hungry.
That's in the name, right?
Yeah.
Temporal.
Fried notes.
And this was a Kickstarter that greatly exceeded its goal.
Yeah.
In one day, it like kind of blew up. I didn't even notice it on Muff at first. Like they posted about it, and I just saw the word flux, and I thought it was the old thread for the Fluxus,
yeah.
getting
Yeah.
rebumped, so I ignored it. And then I saw it like getting bumped a few times, and then I was like, "Oh wait, this is something different." And I opened it up, and it was just like a bunch of clips of very strange rhythmic variations, and I was like, "Oh, hello."
Yeah, that's kind of what it's about, right? It's about like being able to modify different rhythmic variations very quickly. kind of.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well,
That's what it's temporal modulation.
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
it can do, and I hate to generalize like that, but it's good for strange rhythmic stuff and like almost tribal-ish drum rhythms. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Things of that nature. And I noticed even in his examples, he used what sounds like Japanese drum samples, which is cool, you know. But you can do a lot more with that, it seems. Like he has a lot of weird humanized functions built in there and curves to the percussion stuff. So you can do things that are like speeding up and slowing down.
Oh, nice.
It's almost like if you were to have a Zadar and instead of it outputting an envelope to that wave, it's outputting gates to that wave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For lack of a better way to
Yeah,
describe
yeah.
it. Like it's definitely wave based.
And it wasn't just gates, because each of the 4 channels have 3 auxiliary outputs.
Those were only gates also? Well, let me back up a second.
Oh, well.
There's four channels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Each channel has 4 outputs. Your main gate output and then the 3 auxiliaries. He has adjusted it now in the beta firmware so that one channel of each of those tracks, each of those auxiliary tracks can be CV.
Right.
So you can now modulate with it as well,
okay.
or sequence. So you could essentially have like one main gate, 2 auxes, 1 CV per channel, or per track, I should say.
Yeah.
It's a little confusing, but yeah, it's a beast of a fucking rhythmic sequencer. It's kind of like the type of thing I've always dreamed about. It does what I've tried to rig up, like my vector and my marbles and my 2 grids to be able to handle in conjunction with like the Bifaco bursts and the logic module.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like I have a whole fucking case over there
Yeah.
dedicated to doing like what this one module can do, and this module seems like it can do it a lot better. It's kind
Yeah.
of very impressive. Like it got the bursts in there and the speed variations, and he's inputting logic, so like, you know, I mean, it's all on board. Kind of like how GateStorm can do, you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't want to pretend like GateStorm doesn't exist. That's out there, and it kind of does some of this stuff too, but this seems to take it to the next level. It's not a small module, but for what it does, I would consider it small. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
like I
Yeah.
said, like I have a
Considering
whole rack of shit.
Yeah, what you're replacing, that is
Right.
a fraction of the size.
Yeah, I don't. It's still a ways off. Like it's not scheduled to come out until like August.
Oh.
Damn.
He's been basically putting out almost weekly updates since the Kickstarter started, and he's been very transparent with this whole process and everything. And it's evolved a lot since like it was first announced. Like he just started asking for suggestions on Muff, you know, and like Muff's the type of place where if you ask for thoughts, you're gonna fucking get them.
Yeah.
So like everyone had their own 2 cents on what FLUX should be, and it kind of got overwhelming for me to even read because like everyone had different ideas and different directions and different thoughts, and myself included. You know, I gave him some feedback on some things, which he implemented. I was like, cool. And he would like take everyone's suggestions over like a course of a couple days, reply to them, talk about what he is going to add based on those suggestions and what he's going to rethink. And you know, and he was very transparent about the whole thing. He even redid the whole like initial panel of it so that there would be more modulation inputs. But essentially he opened it up to being more modulation possibilities, more destinations. Like there's a modulation grid in the menu, and now each track is going to have the capability to have things pointing to other things. So you could essentially change your curve or, you know, your speed or anything like that. So you can come up with weird ways to arrange things. And now with the possibility of the CV outs, you can self-patch it.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can have other channels modulating your other channels, you know? So it's going to be really interesting. Like aside from like NerdSeek tracker module, like I feel like this is probably going to be like the most IDM-ish,
Yeah.
you know, focused sequencer out there. What is temporal modulation synthesis, Dave? Do you know?
It is modulating the concept of time. in time as a construct.
Curvature to time, yes. Creating rhythms by modulating the linearity of trigger distribution within a step. Each step can output a density of between 1 to 64 triggers.
He did a really good job. There's a couple of
And you
not
can
just
sweep through that.
not just videos, but there's these sort of like little tiny like 1 minute clips of like temporal modulation in action. It was pretty cool. They're like, I don't know if it's 100% clear after seeing them, but it gave me a better idea of like what it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was one of the things they added to the Varigate 8 was the ability to like do bouncing ball between steps. So you can modulate like kind of the time that it would take for those things to hit. And yeah.
So was this the first thing he's done?
Yes, as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
Like, dude
What's
just
the
kind of
company
came
name?
out of nowhere. In Orbit Labs.
All right.
So we've discussed this in the past. I'm pretty hesitant to just dive into a Kickstarter, especially from someone who hasn't released anything. But this dude's like level of transparency and just like pure excitement for what he was building, I was like, fuck it, I'm in, you know? You son of a bitch, I'm in.
Yeah. Kickstarter sequencers using the word FLUX.
Yeah.
Beware.
Not a good start. But yeah, I hopped on, like I said, I think it was number 5 to back it that morning, and that was like within the first hour or two that it went live. Because I had a little reminder, but I was asleep when it actually kicked off.
So you're not that serious. The person who actually
I wanted to be number one. I really did.
Because that person's serious, and you're
Because this
kind
thing
of
was
a-
mind blowing to me. I was like, this is essentially my dream sequencer. And
like
I
in the
really-
Olympics, if you came in 5th, there's not even a medal for that. That's, they're just like,
a
hey, what's
loser.
up, poser?
Yeah. Maybe the other first people will fall through, and then I'll default to number 1.
In my heart, you're number one.
Thank you. But yeah, no, it looks amazing. And he just like right from the start, you know, he laid out everything. He even came up with like a chart, you know, describing the whole process of how he's going to build this, the time frames. He was very open to suggestions, and so it just gave me the warm and fuzzies. I felt confident in backing it.
So he was talking about, and I think there's one video there now of the temporal spaces can be so short that you can use it as an oscillator.
Yeah.
He had like drones of, so then he was like using it as an oscillator and then applying modulation to it and getting interesting sounds out of it, which is definitely an atypical use of a gate sequencer.
Yeah, it's almost like a wavetable synth at that point.
Yeah.
It's pretty strange. And if you have a sampler or percussion voice that can handle that speed of triggers, and you can have that thing going in a very strange way you typically wouldn't be doing otherwise.
So the potential is kind of through the roof for this thing.
It is. It's, I mean, at the base level, yeah, you can just have it doing some pretty standard, interesting rhythmic shit.
It sounds like something, even if you were going to trigger it from another sequencer, it would be useful just to be able to like get between steps like the way it can, you know?
Exactly. And that's like something I've been trying very hard to do over the last year.
Right.
Is like find the in-between steps that
Yeah.
make sense and sound good. And it's very hard to do on a 909 style sequencer, even with
fucking
micro
is.
stepping. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're not going to be able to achieve the type of like curves, and I can kind of achieve that with the Bifaco bursts. They have CV ins for like the ability to start at the normal speed and then speed up. So you're increasing the multiplication of the burst or
Okay.
dividing it.
Yeah.
So you can do bouncing ball type shit. And one of the problems I've had with the Bifacos, despite still being on that grid, is that there's always a little bit of latency. Once you introduce something like a burst generator into your trigger path, you know what I mean? It always kind of, and then it makes the rest of the rhythm kind of off. And it's fucking frustrating to me.
Right.
This is all in one, all on board. Everything will be in time, in sync, the way I want it to be in a musical fashion.
Right.
Pretty fucking excited about it.
And there's a micro SD card for saving a bunch of shit.
Yeah, you can save all your sequences that you come up with. I don't think it was a huge amount of stuff that you can save to it. He said that's a stretch goal, and I think he made it. Some of the other stretch goals were like phase shifting, additional I/O, interface tweaks. All that's been done. And then, the 4 analog envelope outputs, which we also reached. I think we hit all of the stretch goals on this thing.
Now, someone who wasn't involved in the original project or campaign, can they order it now after it's closed and finished?
Don't think they can yet. they're going to have to wait, I think, unless it's on the website. I'm not sure. I'm still going by the Kickstarter page itself.
Right.
It was £350, and I think the non-Kickstarter ones, like the non-early birds, I think they're going to be more like £450 or something like that.
Well, that's substantial.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you get for sleeping.
You snooze, you fucking lose, man.
Fucking right.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just very interesting. And he added some more like burst generator type of stuff to it as well. So you can like hit it with a gate and then have it go do its like one shot, temporal cycle of gates. So it's pretty versatile. I'm excited about it. I think I'm going to be able to replace quite a bit that's in my percussion sequencing rack and logic rack with this.
Couple grids.
A couple grids, a couple burst generators, a couple marbles, a couple branches, a couple plugs.
Oh, you gotta keep one plug though.
Yeah.
Might not need to, honestly. If this thing does all what it says it does with the logic stuff, I might not need it.
Let me know. I might buy one off you.
But yeah, Flux.
Yeah.
I don't even know what this dude's name is. I forget. Let me look him up.
What is he on Muff?
So the guy's name on Muffs is VC Oscillator, and the Muff thread has been kept up to date by him as the Kickstarter progressed, as has the thread overall. He's been pretty good at communicating with everyone that has been commenting or asking questions or giving suggestions.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's something I wish more people would do.
Yeah.
I feel like the success of this and the transparency of it and how clear cut everything was from the start, people should take some fucking notes moving forward.
Yeah.
It would definitely inspire me to back more Kickstarters.
I mean, even you saying you backed it was a little surprising because we've talked
on day one, no less, too. Yeah, usually I wait towards the end just to see how things are shaping up. Sure. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, I jumped right in. Head first.
Not right in.
Four
other people actually did that.
God damn it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm a
those
slacker.
people don't sleep. They actually care.
Son of a bitch.